You catch the ball. You got it?
There's no crying. There's no crying in baseball.
Viva Cuba Libre! Welcome back. It has been a long time coming, but this is Mike Babot. I am your host of the Picked Off podcast with Bitter Mike. So welcome into the program our new colleague, Eric Schuler, from the great state of Texas and the great city of San Antonio, by the way, which is the 7th largest city in the country and one of the fastest growing. Eric's a good friend of mine. He's got some insights. He's a big-time baseball fan and played the game, laced him up for a while, and we want to get his insights on some of the stuff he's going to. We're going to be talking now. This is going to be a baseball podcast. I just want to let you know, but we are going to be talking all sports, especially those that are hot in the news right now. We're going to be talking about the college football playoff. We're going to be possibly talking about the NFL playoffs. And, man, maybe we'll sprinkle in some pop culture if we have some time. But this is going to be a baseball sports podcast, and I'm just really thrilled to have Eric on the program. Now, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong. You are San Antonio born and raised. You're a baseball guy, but you got some nuanced, I guess, fan bases that teams that you're a fan of. You are a fan of the.
Oh, I love the Yankees. I love the Texas Longhorns. Now that fandom is probably pretty intense, but I would also tell you, I have a couple teams out there that I hate with a passion. I would tell you my hatred for those teams ranks right up there with my love for the Yankees, the Spurs, and the Longhorns. So we'll get to talk about the Cowboys a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the Cowboys.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the Astros and anything else from Houston or Dallas.
By the way, Eric, have you seen the show? So a little bit of a background on the two of us. We are longtime colleagues of a certain oil and gas company. We won't mention it, but we pride ourselves in the products that we provide. And one of the shows that is another Taylor Sheridan masterpiece. One of the shows that has been put out this season is a show called Landman. Have you seen that yet?
I have seen clips of Landman. I have not tuned in to the show specifically.
Okay, first of all, you need to see it. As an oil and gas man, you need to see it. The writing is phenomenal. The acting is great. Demi Moore has made a splash as a return to the small screen. John Hamm is phenomenal, but the best by far is Billy Bob Thornton. In some of his interactions with his ex-wife, who I can't remember her name in real life, but she played the high school girl in Varsity Blues, I believe.
Okay.
She was the one who lubed herself up in
whipped cream.
Whipped cream, yeah. So
deal.
Anyway, so she's grown up now, but she's a pistol still. But the most recent episode, which airs Sunday night, had a cameo by the owner of your, air quotes, favorite football team,
the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, I saw that clip.
Let me tell you, he was good.
Yeah, I think he'd be better at that than being the owner of a football team.
I don't know how many takes it took, but he was pretty damn good. And he had some sage advice.
Well, look, I won't. I'll go as far to say Jerry Jones for me is likable, but I'm also an anti-Dallas fan, right? So I love Jerry Jones, but at the end of the day, if you're a Cowboys fan, how can you have anything but disdain for that guy?
Are you of the camp, because there's a lot of fans in our office that are fans of the Cowboys, but they're not fanatical. Some of them are, but some of them are realists. But there is a certain segment of fans that were Dallas Cowboys, but once he took over that team and unceremoniously fired Tom Landry, they said, "That's it, I'm out." Are you one of those? Were you ever a Cowboys fan?
No, my disdain for the Cowboys goes back to the time, my father has disdain for the Cowboys, probably worse than mine. So I was raised like this. At the end of the day, we have more of a disdain for Dallas. Me and my dad talk all the time about, I'd like to sell Dallas to Oklahoma if I had it my way.
Okay, they may be willing to do that. But it might be a little bit expensive. But Texas is into growing, not necessarily shaving off. It's just evidenced by all the people moving from New York and California. So
everybody wants to be here.
Everybody does want to be here. We love the climate. We love the weather. We love the people. anyway, I won't get into it, but Texas reminds me a lot what California was like when I grew up there. But anyway, enough about that. We digress, but this is a baseball podcast. We got a lot to get into as far as baseball. The 2025 offseason is in full effect. Right? We've seen some major signings. We still got a couple of guys that are on the fence here, still available. Some teams are hunkering down. We got to talk about these free agents that have been signed. Some of these big deals. Some of them are 1-year prove-it deals, which kind of raised some eyebrows for me. And a couple of guys that are still out there that and let's see if we can make some predictions as where they may go. So let's just jump right in it. But first, before we get into that, one of my favorite baseball players of all time passed away 4 or 5 days before his 66th birthday.
He died on Christmas Day, is that right?
No, he was born on Christmas Day.
He was born on Christmas Day. He died a little bit before that, right?
He died on the 20th, I believe. R.I.P. to Rickey Henderson. In my day, so Rickey Henderson is part of the Gen X. So he made his major league debut about 7 years before you were born.
That's accurate.
That's accurate, right? He made his major league debut in 1979, June of 1979, playing for a terrible Oakland A's team. All right, Rickey Henderson, not arguably, no question, the best leadoff hitter in the
greatest leadoff hitter of all time, the GOAT
in the history
at the leadoff spot, absolutely,
no question about it. Right, the stats are just absolutely phenomenal,
gaudy.
1,406 stolen bases over his career. 140 stolen bases during a season. I think he did that in his second or third year in the league. More runs scored, more stolen bases in the playoff history than anybody else. Here's another stat that I just heard from Kim Kirchman in a recent podcast. He stole he led off an inning with a walk 796 times. Of the guys in the Hall of Fame, currently in the Hall of Fame, 45% of them didn't walk that many times in their entire career.
That is insane.
And when you couple that with a 400 lifetime on-base percentage, just leading off an inning, 40% of those chances, that's going to be a run.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, for me, Rickey Henderson, kind of set himself apart from really, I would say, a significant portion of some of the great, players of all time, because Rickey kind of did his own thing in terms of Rickey made his career about Rickey. And I can't say that for every, we can argue this. This is going to be maybe a hot take later on. But, everybody here knows, my infatuation with Derek Jeter and what I think about Derek Jeter. But at the end of the day, if you think about Derek Jeter, right, Derek Jeter is defined by being a Yankee.
Yeah.
Rickey Henderson is defined.
And by titles.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm going to tell you, those titles would not mean as much if he played for Tampa Bay. Sorry, Tampa Bay.
That's true.
But at the end of the day, 5 titles in New York means more than it means in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And so for me, Rickey Henderson is the greatest of all time from a leadoff perspective, and really I think should be, in the talks about,
top 5,
top
10,
top
sure.
10 greatest of all time, because Rickey made his career on his own merit. It had nothing to do with the legacy franchise that he played for.
No.
It had nothing to do with the other players that he played with. And so for me, Rickey Henderson was his own man in every right. I talked to you a little bit about this earlier this year, Mike. I can probably name on one hand the number of people that I know that were born to do what they do for a living. Rickey Henderson was one of those guys.
No question about it. I mean, he actually liked, during his Hall of Fame speech, I listened to it, and he actually liked football. But his teacher said, "You are born to be a baseball player." And I'll tell you, and I'll give you some incentives. This, I think it was a history teacher or whatever. She gave him a quarter for every run he scored, every base hit he got, every stolen base he got, and by the end of the year, he was making bank. And it was just phenomenal. And I'll never forget. So I met a guy. So in my previous life, I was working for a construction company in California. And my boss at the time lived in a swanky area in the East Bay called Alamo. And one of his neighbors was Wayne Gross. journeyman third baseman for the Oakland A's, came in during the dark days, but also was able to experience the Billy Ball area. And so he was there. He was a 3-year vet, a 4-year vet when Rickey broke in when he was drafted and broke in 1978. And he said two things about Rickey. Number one, he couldn't remember anybody's name and wasn't the smartest in the world. But number two, he was the best athlete he'd ever seen in his life. He changed the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to go back to I'm just old school. I tend to think that these guys who have these personalities, and I come from a really pure standpoint of I like me a ball player, right? I like somebody who is a ball player, and I think Rickey was a ball player.
Yeah.
And I don't think all of these stories, I mean, there are countless stories about Rickey Henderson being Rickey. But I think what really sets him apart from there was nothing calculated about him, and that's why I think he was appreciated. Even though some of the things he did were could be considered unthoughtful, I don't think it was intentional. I mean, there's stories about, when he got, I guess when he was with the Oakland A's, I guess Billy Beane had got drafted as well.
Yeah.
And they sent Billy Beane down to the minor leagues, and Billy Beane was gone for 6-8 weeks before he got, returned to the majors. And, he had a locker next to Rickey Henderson. And, Rickey saw him 6-8 weeks later and says, "Man, where have you been? I haven't seen you in a while." He's like, "Golly, he's been sitting in the minors and you don't even know it." He wasn't trying to be rude to the guy. He was just being Rickey.
He was just 100% focused on his craft.
That's it.
And what he could do to make his team successful. And even though some of those bad years with Oakland, I mean, look at this. He led all of majors in stolen bases with 100 his first full season in the majors, and 3 of the first 4 seasons in the majors. He led the American League in stolen bases at the age of 39.
Yeah, I mean, the stats are gaudy.
And I'll never forget. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'll never forget. There was, in the aftermath of one of the games in the 1989 ALCS. But now let me back you up a bit. Rickey Henderson left the A's for a free agent contract with the Yankees. Started off good, didn't end so well, but I will never forget the day when KNBR, the local 60,000 watt powerhouse of the Northern California area, when they broke the news that the A's were trading for Rickey Henderson. Now, they had already had Dave Stewart. They already had Dave Henderson.
Yeah, they had some studs.
They had Canseco. They had McGuire. So they had the pieces in place. Okay, they had the pitchers, Bob Welch, who was a 24-game winner at the time. Dave Stewart won 20 games in a row, 20 games, 4 seasons in a row. I mean, they were there, but they needed that missing piece. They needed a guy at the top of the lineup to create some havoc, and they swung a deal, and KNBR broke it, and I was on the phone with the ticket office with the A's. Now, I'd left the A's as a fan, but became a Giants fan, but I was still like the A's. I'm one of those 5 people in the Bay Area that like both teams. And I said, "Is it true?" And she says, "We're not commenting or confirming anything yet." But it was that impactful. And once he became it, Tony La Russa knew how to handle his players. He knew when to give them days off. And he knew when to rest them. He knew, say, "Okay, Rickey," I remember this like in a Sports Illustrated article. "Rickey, we got the Orioles coming in town. Which of these I need to give you a break. Which of these pitchers do you have a problem with?" You pointed to somebody, I don't know, maybe it was Flanagan, whatever. Okay, fine, you're getting a day off that day. They knew how to work him. And I'll never forget, I mean, he was tearing up the league, stealing bases, creating havoc. He was back home. And I can't remember, it was the third baseman for the Toronto Blue Jays after they had won a game, and he was just bitching on Rickey, saying, all that guy does is create havoc on the bases. He's a showboat, blah, blah, blah. He steals bases, he's not much. Rickey's response to it, "Okay, fine, I'll just beat you another way." Very next day, hit a home run the very next at bat.
Yeah, that's Rickey to a T, though. I mean, if you think about this is what I love about Rickey Henderson, right? Obviously, old school, right? We've talked about that already. But what I love about Rickey is he earned his spots. He was not gimmicky, right? Everybody else that comes through these days that steals the number of bases, right? They get put out there in an 8th inning big spot. They get put on first base, pinch hit to try to go around and give their team a spark to maybe win a game. That was not Rickey. He helped his team day in, day out. He was not gimmicky at all, and that just leads to the fact that, probably the greatest leadoff hitter of all time for a number of reasons. Not just the fact that he stole a lot of bases, but he hit for great average, very productive, and honestly, people feared him when he got on base.
Most leadoff home runs in all time.
Absolutely.
Most runs scored all time. 140 stolen bases. You know, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to get close. Maybe Ronald Acuna. Of course, he's already suffered 2 knee injuries. And when you suffer knee injuries, you know, you lose your speed, right? And as when you age, you lose your speed. So let's see if somebody else, maybe an Ailey De La Cruz from Cincinnati, comes along. But I don't think we're going to see another Rickey Henderson.
Different era, and that's what I
even with the expanded bases and the disengagements now. I mean, if Rickey Henderson had those 2 rules,
I mean, who knows?
Come on,
maybe 2000.
Oh my God!
But at the end of the day, what it comes down to for Rickey is it comes down to Rickey's underappreciated for the same fact that I talked about earlier, and the fact that he bounced around the league, played for 10 different teams. And that's just not wildly appreciated, like say a Derek Jeter or Stan the Man or some of these guys that spend their whole career or don't change teams, until the twilight years of their career. That happens, but Rickey bounced around the league. I mean, he spent his whole entire career and played for I think 9 or 10 teams, total, with a couple stops in Oakland and different things like that. But I think that same factor is what made him great. He built his legacy on himself.
And he loved the game.
And he loved the game. And so he was willing to play long, and and he was just as productive in the later years of his career as he was early on. So, with that, rest in peace, Rickey Henderson. What a stud.
I'll get you out of here. There was 2 more stories. These are personal stories that really point to the man of who he was, really, because a lot of people think that he was aloof and stuff, and and he played too many card games and stuff. I'll tell you this: 2 stories. One of them was written by the Hall of Fame writer Ron Firmwright, who was a beat writer for the San Francisco Chronicle. He's since passed away, but he was also the back of the page writer for the Sports Illustrated. Now, if you had the back of the page, this was before Rick Riley. If you had the back of the page, you had arrived. Everybody looks at the back of the page. And Ron Firmwright tells the story of when Rickey Henderson left the Oakland A's his first time to sign a free agent contract. There was a little girl that wrote him a letter. She was like 7 or 8 years old. Her parents took her to every single ball game. They had season tickets in the left field line. And she was a big fan of Rickey. They always met right before the game. Hi, how you doing? Blah, 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 wave. And he would have a conversation with this little girl. She found out that the A's would let him go, and he signed with the Yankees. She wrote Rickey a letter saying, I never got the chance to say goodbye. Rickey read it, cried like a baby. His first road trip back to Oakland, he went out and sought her out and gave her a big hug and said, I'm sorry. A lot to be said for that. Yep. Secondly, Warriors versus, I think it was the Phoenix Suns back in 1993. He was playing for Toronto at the time, but he was in town to visit the A's. So he was at the Warriors game. And so this is when you could afford to go to a basketball game. My buddy,
that was a long time ago.
Yeah, shout out to Jimmy Meehan for taking me all those Warrior games. We sat up, I don't know, section 228, whatever it was. Close enough, far enough to use binoculars, whatever. So I'm always looking at the luminaries and all the big shots down in the courtyard seat or courtside seats. And holy smokes, there's Rickey Henderson. He cuts a very identifiable figure, right? I mean, he's built like Adonis. He's a beautiful human being. I can say that. I'm like, holy crap, there's Rickey Henderson. Okay, didn't think too much about it. He's sitting courtside. At the end of the third period, the Hall of Fame announcer, I can't remember the PA guy, says, we have royalty amongst our midst. Left fielder for the Toronto Blue Jays, former Oakland A, Rickey Henderson. Place goes bananas, stands up. Before you can say Hall of Famer, there's a line of kids up the aisle because he's sitting in the aisle seat. There's a line of kids up the aisle through the concourse looking for an autograph. And let me tell you something. He signed every single one.
Yeah, class
He missed
act.
the entire fourth period. Didn't care. He signed every single autograph. I've had conversations with him, through fences and stuff like that. I mean, he's a very congenial guy. R.I.P. to Rickey. He was the most exciting player I've ever seen. I don't think there'll be another one like him. I hope there will be because baseball certainly needs it.
Oh, baseball needs it. But I would tell you, I agree with you 100%, Mike. I don't think there will be another like him, and that's because underrated here, his health.
Oh, yeah.
The guy stayed on the field.
Yeah.
And
he took care of his body.
And usually when you're a big-time base stealer, leadoff guy, you spend a lot of time on the ground. Right? You struggle to stay healthy. He did not have a problem staying healthy. He played a lot of games.
Yep. So he was smart, too. One of his teams the New York Yankees, actually both teams, the A's and the Yankees, have been very active.
A's are making a little bit of noise here.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
I mean, they signed Brent Rooker, extended him. I mean, he's a solid player, 5 years, $50 million.
Yep.
Right? They signed Luis Severino.
Now, I know this sounds crazy, but to give the A's some credit, they're making some waves here.
They have to.
But at the end of the day, these are I hate to say this, but these are some bargain basement deals here. They're not out there paying top dollar for anybody, but they're going out and doing what they've normally done. They're finding value.
They are taking a chance on Luis Severino. 3 years, $67 million is no chump change.
That's not
for
chump
a team
change. I agree. $23 million a year or so.
And keep in mind, they're going to a AAA ballpark, so they got to pay for him somehow. Mm-hmm. Right now, granted, they're still pinching pennies, but the Yankees are also making news for what they're doing and what they did not do. Let's talk about what they did. Right? They signed Max Fried.
Mm-hmm.
8 years, $218 million.
Yep.
They said no thank you to Anthony Rizzo, but more importantly, they let the most coveted free agent go not only to somebody else, but to their crosstown rival, the New York Mets.
Now, Mike, you and I have talked extensively about this.
Well, I need your take on this.
Yeah,
our listeners need your take on this.
And I will tell you right now, I am a huge Juan Soto fan, right? You know that. And I love Juan Soto for a number of reasons. But I will tell you, because I'm not as infatuated with the home run, and likewise not as infatuated with the strikeout, which I know the Major Leagues loves the strikeout, but they also love the home run. And so for me, Juan Soto, this is controversial here, but he may be the most coveted free agent in my opinion, in my lifetime. I would tell you, for me, it's a swing and a miss for the Yankees. Not getting this guy. Now it makes me sad, right? Because there's been a lot of news that have come out of this on how close the two teams were in their offer. And, as a biased Yankees fan, and we don't have to argue about whether or not the Yankees are the greatest franchise of all time. That's a given. But what I will tell you is it makes me sad that if they truly were $2 to $3 million a year apart on their offer, and the fact that being a Yankee does not far and away outweigh that $2 to $3 million, that makes me sad for the state of baseball.
What about the stories coming out that there was a rift about the Yankees not paying for a luxury suite like they did for Jeter, like they did for Giancarlo Stanton and Garrett Cole? What about also the rumors or the stories that none of his Yankee teammates made a call to him, particularly the captain himself, Aaron Judge?
Oh, Mike, don't get me started on this.
I am going to get you started. That's why we're here.
I'll tell you right now, Aaron Judge does a lot of things well. Runs like a gazelle, just absolutely built, hits a lot of home runs, strikes out a lot. Not the most productive player, me and what I like to see out of a hitter and a player. But I will tell you, that is the biggest, even with these postseason stats that Aaron Judge put up, which have been
horrific.
Yeah, definitely not something we should
the
spend a lot
error
of time
center
on.
field.
Yeah, one after the other. This has been the biggest blunder so far in his career as a Yankee, is the fact that Juan Soto came out and said, I haven't spoken to my New York teammates since the World Series loss. That makes me sick. In fact, it makes me so sick, my deal is I'd cut Aaron Judge tomorrow, I'd trade him. Because my thing is, he is not about what I'm trying to do in New York. I'm trying to win championships here, and I'll tell you.
Don't you think this is rather a teaching moment for maybe a Brian Cashman or
my deal is I can't expect Brian Cashman. Look, Cashman had his day. We'll go back and forth on that too. I just don't have a lot of respect for Brian Cashman right now. I think he's lost the touch of being able to put together a World Series team, a team that can win the World Series. Now, no doubt, they went to the World Series this year, and they got manhandled by the Los Angeles Dodgers, who were
they got
coached,
exposed,
who were really
flaws.
Outclassed. They outclassed the Yankees.
I mean,
and so for me, very frustrated with the Yankees organization right now, from the standpoint of their horse. Aaron Judge doesn't reach out and try to court this guy and make it all about him. I just don't see the captain in Eric Schuler's opinion, the greatest of all time. Derek Jeter would have never allowed that to happen. Derek Jeter was about winning, and if he thought Juan Soto was the answer to winning some additional hardware there in the Bronx, he would have been probably in his face on a daily basis. So very disappointed in the Yankees organization, disappointed in Aaron Judge. And, you say, hey, is it a mentoring opportunity for Brian Cashman to get in Aaron Judge's ear and teach him a thing or two? I don't know if Brian Cashman has that in the tank at this point.
Well, that and the fact that Aaron Judge is 30 years old, he's been in enough clubhouses to know how to build a team. And like you said, Derek Jeter wouldn't have let this slide. Heck, he courted A-Rod.
Yeah.
And A-Rod's got one of the biggest egos around.
And I want to be clear about Derek Jeter. Not only did he court A-Rod, he will alienate you if you're not about winning.
Yeah.
He will put you out to pasture, and he did that as well. And so it's really about, the door swings both ways. You have to be all in on a guy who's going to help you win, and you got to be all out on a guy that's going to hurt your chances of winning.
So you would have signed Juan Soto
absolutely
at 15 years, 765.
Absolutely, knowing that the last 5 years of that contract, maybe the last 6 to 7. Will not be as valuable as the first.
Well, I mean that's how they always are.
But if he helps you win, I would tell you in a 15-year deal, if you bring 3 to 5 World Series to the Bronx, that's a good sign.
Okay. What about Goldschmidt's one deal?
It's a 1-year deal. I think you're getting value there. I think all these 1-year deals are regardless of kind of what the value amount is. I like a 1-year deal for the organization. Because I think it gives you a chance to sell the organization for a whole year. I hate to keep referring back to the Juan Soto deal. I really like the fact that the Yankees got Juan Soto in the door. I thought that could be a huge asset to court him for half a season or a full season, and kind of get him sold on the Yankee way. So I like these 1-year deals for all these organizations. I just think it Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, it just puts a little bit more onus on managing that player and kind of getting that player bought into the organization as opposed to the dollar figures. The dollar figures are less important. You have 1 year to court these individuals, and especially if you can get them playing at some of those levels that they've played at in the past, which is why they're only getting 1-year deals. I think if you can court them and get them on board with the organization as opposed to the money, I think it's a total win.
I think for me, the 1-year deals work if a guy's on the downside of his career or if he's coming off of an injury. Case in point, Paul Goldschmidt, he's 37 years old. He fell off hard, yeah, from 2023. Other case in point, recently signed Justin Verlander, 1 year, $15 million deal, pending a physical with my San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, post Tommy John surgery.
He wasn't very good. 17 starts. He had a 5.87 ERA. His last 5 or 6 starts were like over 8. We already have enough injured arms, but if he's going to pass his physical, let's see what he's got. I mean, it's the other interesting one was very intriguing for me was the 1-year prove it deal that Walker Buehler signed with the Boston Red Sox at $21 million. That's basically the qualified offer.
Yeah, just over $20 million.
Right. Now, so this guy also spent 2 years, the better part of 2 years, recovering from Tommy John surgery, and his first 5 or 6 starts were pretty rough for the Dodgers. But once he came back and he started getting his sea legs, and especially in the playoffs, he was lights out.
Yeah,
I mean, he mowed down the Yankees. Granted, we've already talked about how flawed the Yankees lineup is, but you know what? He had some pretty nasty stuff going in there. So I think this is a really good deal for the Red Sox, especially after losing Nick Pivetta. And I don't understand why Nick Pivetta turned down the qualifying offer. He's not going to get a deal that good. And now if anybody signs him to a qualifying offer, they're going to have to pay a compensatory pick, so that makes him even more expensive. So something like that,
Well, what I kind of like about these, what I like about what these 1-year deals are pointing to for the game is really, I think the teams may be finding. I mean, there's still some huge deals out there.
Sure.
The Juan Soto deal. I mean, 15 years. Almost $800 million is just out of control.
I don't think that's going to happen this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, but I will tell you these 1-year deals for me are the teams finding some sea legs? Are all the teams starting to kind of get on board with, hey, maybe we can piecemeal certain parts of our team, with things like this, as opposed to these long-term, free agency grabs. And I think those long-term free agency grabs don't come around every year.
No, and I think that's where the Yankees really built their championship status in the mid-'90s. What they did, though, is that they built from within, right? Yeah. That's what the Giants did in the late 2000s. They built from within, and then they mixed and matched. They brought in pieces, like Pat the Bat. They brought in, Cody Ross.
Yep.
Marco Scuro. Yep. They got those guys.
Did Cabrera win one with the Giants too?
Yes, but then he was suspended for PEDs in the middle of 2012
But, he was a part
season.
of a lot of winning teams right there in his career.
Yes, but they
for not being an all-star.
Right, but I remember when he was busted for PEDs, it was like a month after Matt Cain pitched his perfect game against your favorite other team, the Houston Astros. Mm-hmm. We'll get into them later. But that actually galvanized the team. But be that as it may, but you build that team, and that's what has pissed me off about my Giants is because they started when Bobby Evans took over for Brian Sabian as the GM from VP of player development, whatever. He started making these stupid signings. I mean, and these trades. He traded 4 players to get Evan Longoria. That never worked out. He signed who was the guy who pitched for Kansas City. It'll come to me. And then he signed, of course, Samardzija out of Chicago in the A's. He signed him to a 5-year, $75 million deal or $90 million deal. I never understood that one.
Yeah, that's a miss.
I mean, that was a miss. But so you've got to build from within. I totally agree with you. And then you fill in the gaps with these bench players. That's what the Yankees did. I mean, that's why the Yankees were so damn dominant, is because they had the core 4 in the center of the diamond, but then they had so much depth at the bench. You just couldn't beat them.
And what's sad about it, Mike, is really, we talk about building from within. The problem is a right fielder. You can patch that area.
The
problem is you can't patch shortstop. You can't patch. Behind the plate is underrated. Behind the plate is the most.
That's why the Yankees have struggled so much.
Yeah.
They haven't found a replacement for Jorge Posada.
It's been a total patchwork of catchers since the Posada era.
Oh my God, Gary Sanchez! Don't get me started.
Yeah, there's a number of them, and so I think on top of that, going back to your point about the Yankees and the core 4, the core 4 happen to play the right positions.
Yeah, no question about it.
And so I think, looking back on it, I just don't see a team that has replicated that at those pivotal positions. Maybe the Cardinals.
The Royals.
Yeah, the Royals. The problem with the Royals is the Royals should step up. They could have a dominant club for 10 years, but they're going to have to step up and spend some money, and I don't know if they have it.
Well, John Sherman, the owner, he took over in 2021, I believe, maybe 2020. He's a fan. He's also the largest, one of the richest men in the Kansas City area. He bought the team for only $1 billion, so it was, below market value. They're looking at a new stadium. They've got a great core. They got one of the best catchers in the game in Salvador Perez, and of course the best player in the game in Bobby Witt Jr. And they signed him to a very team-friendly
first Gold
deal.
Glove this year, right?
I believe so.
First one, yeah.
And he should have been.
And
he
got a steal. They got a steal.
Oh yeah. Now, granted, he's got some opt-outs.
Sure.
I think after year 3 or 4. But he's the type of person that's going to want to build that team around.
Yeah, he would rather win than opt out from
absolutely. And trading Brady Singer, I kind of like that move. I mean, they gave him enough chances. I think they want to roll with Tony Bubic back from the pen, back in the starter role. He was a starter before, so let's see what happens.
If you want to be a perennial playoff team in the big leagues, you have to make decisions like that.
Yeah, you have to swing.
That's right.
Speaking of swing and miss, we'll roll to these quick. Max Fried.
Fried for me, I think if it was a 5-year deal, I'd feel much more comfortable about it.
Okay.
I think a pitcher like him, a non-power pitcher, I think they start to struggle in their late 30s because it just becomes about something different. I think if you're pumping it up there 97, 98, 99 miles an hour, I think you can afford to be 38, 39 like a Verlander. But Max Fried, I'll be happy with the first 5 years of that contract. It's just a question of, is he going to be another pitcher that the Yankees pick up where the pinstripes are a little bit too much for him? I don't know.
Corbin Burns, 30 years old, formerly of the Baltimore Orioles. Of course, he made his hay with Milwaukee. Now he signs a 6-year deal for $210 million with the up-and-coming Arizona Diamondbacks. They made a splash in 2023. They went to the World Series. This is a big risk. What do you think?
I'm a strikeout here. Like I like him. I
big
like
pitcher.
him. I like
big
him.
arm.
He's got a big arm. But the question is, can he be successful there?
Yeah.
And I just don't know the answer. I would not have gone. I think that's getting a little bit out over their skis. On this particular player.
The last one that we can probably talk about, the most significant one, was Willy Adames.
I have a lot of opinions on this.
Please.
So I think this stuff has to go. Be spoken about. I hope they're talking about this in San Francisco. But I don't know if folks have looked at, kind of his breakdown of his statistics and his home runs. So a significant portion of his home runs, probably more than 60% of his home runs were hit to left and center field. And he's going to go to a bigger porch in San Francisco.
No
it's going to
question.
be bigger than Milwaukee. And so I think that's going to be a factor. The other thing I don't like about Adames from my standpoint, and this happens to all players because they start to figure out what's important in the big leagues, is he's starting to hit the ball higher. It's going to lead to more strikeouts. Right, the more home runs you try to hit, the more strikeouts you're going to have. And for me, I think it's the biggest issue plaguing the major leagues right now is the infatuation with the home run, therefore leading to more strikeouts, which makes you a less productive hitter. I don't care what anybody says.
He had a breakout season, 251 average, which is near the top of his career. 32 home runs, 112 knocks. Solid OPS at 793. That's well above the league average.
Yep.
But I think also, Eric, we're missing two components. Number one, he's an above-average shortstop defensively.
Yes.
So that solidifies the left side of the infield, right?
Mm-hmm. And you earn your reps in the defensive side of the ball.
Exactly. And they got Matt Chapman, a perennial Gold Glove at third base, who came on strong. They signed him to, I think, a 5 or 6 year extension.
Yep. Cannon for an arm.
For a cannon for an arm, but just a witch with the glove.
Yep.
And the Giants have been very, very deficient defensively for years, ever since the demise of one Brandon Crawford, who's since retired. That's it's good for him, but this gives them a chance to move Tyler Fitzgerald over to second base, solidify that spot at second base. They still. What
I like is it puts him in position.
It puts him in position for certain. Yeah. And also, he's a great clubhouse guy. I got a friend of mine who's a Craig Walvogel. Shout out to him. He's a big.
Are you talking about Willie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Talking about Willie. He's a great clubhouse guy. He's going to solidify that. 29 years old, at the peak of his career, or at the prime of his career. So I think this is a good deal for them.
But it's also a really reasonable deal. My only concern is don't get infatuated with the home runs. I think he's going to see a dip this year. I think he's going to hit.
No. We've everybody who comes into San Francisco as a hitter has to understand.
There's an extra 20 feet out there to deal with.
Exactly.
But
there's also gaps in the outfield.
Yeah.
Singles become doubles, doubles become triples.
The play's huge. I just think from a home run perspective,
right.
I think fans need to be prepared that I think you could see mid-20s this year.
Yeah. All right. What's left in the stable? Max Scherzer, Patrick Corbin, Anthony Rizzo, later the New York Yankees. And then the last two we'll talk about. Scherzer, 40 years old. He's a dog, but like we said before, Father Time is undefeated.
I'm a pass. He may get a look. I think. Well, he will get a look.
Yeah,
but I think he's going to get a look with a team like the A's, right? With a team, maybe like the Cardinals. Some team that doesn't have a ton of money to spend, right? That's looking for a guy to maybe give him a shot in the arm.
Yeah.
But I honestly, I'm a pass on Max Scherzer. He's a dog. I love those types of pitchers.
Love Mad Max. Yep.
Yeah, you know that about me. But for me, 40 years old scares me. I don't think this may be controversial. He was never as electric as Justin Verlander for me. He's a little bit better in the playoffs, but man, Justin Verlander pounds the strike zone and pumps it up there. So I'm a little bit less concerned about Verlander being in his 40s than I am about Scherzer. And Scherzer, struggled with that dead arm for a while there.
Yeah. Patrick Corbin, he's an interesting character. I mean, he signed a 6-year, $140 million deal with the Washington Nationals before the 2019 season, had a phenomenal season in 2019. Then the rest of that contract was garbage. He was either hurt or ineffective. I mean, it was just an absolute waste. And so I'm not sure where he's going to end up.
And don't think every team's not looking at that. Every team is looking at how the last 2 years of that deal went. Or the last 3 years.
It was horrible. I mean, from 2020 on, I mean, he was just absolute. I mean, he really
couldn't find the field. Just a lot.
Yeah. So where he ends up. He might end up someplace that's pitching poor. You
think he's headed back to the pen? That's my question.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's healthy. That's the problem.
Yeah.
He's just very ineffective, and you cannot continue to roll a guy out like that. I mean, it's just going to be very, very. He's not going to get the money that he got with the Nationals deal.
No.
I mean, Toronto may kick the tires on him a bit. They're looking for a starter. The Cubs are looking for starting pitching, but I don't think that he's going to get that kind of a deal. Rizzo
has not been the same player since he hurt his hand.
And the first base market is thin.
Yeah, for me, I like Anthony Rizzo. I've loved him since he was in Chicago. I think I like the type of hitter he is. My biggest issue with Anthony Rizzo is I like me somebody who's productive at the plate.
Yeah.
And I just think since he hurt his hand, he has not been productive.
And he's had those concussions too. I think when he had that second concussion, that really, really threw him for a loop.
Yeah, and I haven't really paid much attention to how those affected him. That may be a bigger cause than the hand or the thumb that he was dealing with. But I'll tell you, since he had that injury to his hand, he has not been the same player.
And that was a freak injury too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's odd. It's very similar to like a toe injury. Guys can't get over it.
Yeah.
And that plagued him, and he just hasn't been the same. So I think he's going to find a spot because I do think he's a good clubhouse guy. I think he's a winner.
Yeah.
And I think those are few and far between. But he may have to get into a situation where he's a, significant time at DH.
So I don't think he's going to hear the phone ring until the next two guys fall.
Okay.
And those next two guys we're going to talk about are Alex Bregman, late of the Houston Astros. That door is closed because the Astros traded Kyle Tucker, their stud of an outfielder, which kind of raised some eyebrows for me. But I think that's probably because they didn't want to pay him what his market value is going to be. He's in his third and last year of arbitration eligibility, so they shipped him off to Chicago for third baseman Isaac Paredes and their first-round pick last year. And so Isaac Paredes is going to play third, okay? And then next, Pete Alonso, who, I think is going to wait until Alex Bregman signs. Now, there are two teams that are looking at Bregman.
One's the Mets.
One's the Mets. The other one could be the Cubs. But I think the Mets are a better fit because that way then they can move Vientos over from third to first. Vientos has got a big bat, and he's a stud. He's a young stud.
They need to find a spot for him.
Yeah,
stay in the lineup.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'll talk a little bit about Bregman here. Bregman's one of those players. If he played for me, I'd love him. I hate him.
You hate him.
I hate him. But I will tell you, like,
he's from LSU. He's got a little attitude.
He's got a little chotch in him. My thing is not a huge fan of Bregman because he doesn't play for my team. Okay, but if he did, I'd love the guy.
Yeah.
But I will tell you my opinion. I'm going to go a little bit deeper here on the Alex Bregman thing, and I'm going to talk about Houston a little bit here. I think
another one of your favorites.
Yeah, I think Houston. So let's just think about building from within, which Houston did, and I give them a lot of credit for doing that. But at the same time, do you think a couple rings over a 10-year period of time, do you think that's an underachievement? Given the studs they had roll through there?
Well, keep in mind, too, he had to play out of position a lot. When Carlos Correa went down, he played short.
Yep.
When Altuve went down, he played second.
Yeah. But I want to just
he had a rough start.
Just think about those names that you just mentioned. right? Think about those names: Altuve, Bregman, Correa. I mean, those guys handled the left side of that infield, the middle infield, over to third base for a good span of 10 years.
Yeah.
And I just think the franchise underachieved. I'm sorry. I think you got to do better with those players.
Well, I mean, they won the whole thing in 2017.
Yeah, I mean
they've made the playoffs every single year since 2016.
They went to like 5 ALCS championships, right?
That's,
in a row.
Okay,
you know me.
That doesn't suck.
You know me. Yeah, I agree. But finishing second means what?
I get it. I know you're just first loser.
Right? My thing is we got to win some championships, and I think when you have a window like that, you have to get 3, 4. And all I'm saying is being in the ALCS is one thing. Putting yourself in a chance to dance is another. I just don't think they got to the dance enough.
Well, they got it there in 2019.
2017.
And they won it in 2023, I thought.
Was it 3?
Yeah.
I can't remember what year. But I'm going to tell you, it's over for the Astros. It's over.
Well, part of the reason, and we can dig in deeper into this, is because a lot of teams are reeling back the payroll.
Yep.
And we talked about this before.
Except for one.
2. Well, 1, yeah, for sure. The Dodgers, but their Dodgers are okay. So there are notable exceptions: the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Mets, and maybe the Red Sox. Okay, the Dodgers, because in 2014 when they were sold, when Frank McCord, who was probably the worst owner in baseball at the time, finally sold them to Guggenheim Partners, and but their top of the line figure was Magic Johnson. The first thing they did is that they went to Time Warner Cable and signed a 25-year, $8.14 billion TV contract. That equates to over $320 million in revenue before they opened the gates. That's a lot of cheddar.
It's a pretty significant
All
head
right?
start.
So now, I take nothing away from the farm system that the Dodgers have built. It's second to none. That's the reason why they were able to trade for Mookie Betts. They traded 3 prospects, including Alex Verdugo, Connor Joe, and Jeter Downs. Okay, you gotta build a farm system to be able to get a guy like a Mookie Betts.
It's not just about that farm system.
No,
making the field,
but it's got to be it starts with the money. Okay, the Yankees with the S Network, the Mets with SNY, and the Red Sox because of the Red Sox. They're able to do those things. They have those individual deals. The rest of the teams, the other 24, 25 teams, they live off of what they're called the RSNs, the regional sports networks. And those regional sports networks have been filing bankruptcy. Case in point, the San Diego Padres. They lost 20% of their revenue in the middle of the 2023 season when Valley Sports, San Diego, whatever the heck they called themselves, they went belly up. They went belly up.
Yep.
They filed BK Chapter 13. And so the MLB stepped in and said, we'll cover 80% of your revenue, but no more. Oh, in 2024, you're on your own. Astros are the same way. We couldn't find a way for them to get how to watch their games. Here in San Antonio, we can't watch the Rangers. We can't watch the Astros. They expect us to drive 4 to 5 hours to see their games. They consider San Antonio a home network.
Yeah,
that doesn't make any sense.
We can talk about that. Thank you, San Antonio, for being the 7th largest city in the country.
Well, that's not San Antonio. That's Major League Baseball.
Yeah, but San Antonio has to get their own team.
No, they don't.
Oh,
No.
We can talk about that.
I don't want to pay $150 a seat.
Well, I want a team to root for that's local, that I love.
We could talk about that.
But I'd still
anyway,
be an
all right.
fan, probably.
Bregman. I mean, so I think Bregman's going to fall first because he's more desirable. He's younger.
What kind of deal you think he's going to get? 5 years?
4 or 5 years max.
Yeah, $100 million? More than 140?
No, well, he's going to search for 140. Now, keep in mind, both Bregman and Alonso are represented by the devil himself, Scott Boras.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I'll tell you,
he's got to mix and match. He
kind of had a swing and a miss last year. Right?
Oh, he did.
With a couple guys.
But he learned the hard way. He learned the market. It's a lot like real estate, okay? Sometimes that best offer is the first offer. Mm-hmm. Blake Snell, Matt Chapman, 2 prime examples. He was looking for the big deals, didn't get them. Hell, Blake Snell didn't sign until like the second week of spring training.
Yeah.
And he was on the IL for 3 times before the All-Star break because he wasn't ready. What happened? The first offer that the Dodgers made, boom, done. He didn't want to wait too long. He figured out that that the buyer's pool has shrunken because the RSNs are no longer available out printing cash and sending it out all over the place.
Bregman's going to be fine. I think Bregman's going to be fine. He's going to find a home, and Bregman is a world-class third baseman.
He is,
and like I said, I hate the guy because he played for the Astros for the last 10 years. But I will tell you, if he played for my team, I would. If the Yankees came out and signed him, I would love it.
I think the Toronto Blue Jays, if they open up their wallet, I think he'd be a great fit for him. There.
Any chance the Reds?
So the Reds have to find a home for Gavin Lux.
Right.
The Dodgers. Gavin Lux, 27 years old, 2-time World Series winner. He was one of the top prospects in baseball when he broke it in 2020.
Why did the Dodgers trade him?
Because they want to keep Mookie Betts at short, and they just signed Hae-Sung Kim, not Ha-Sung Kim, later the Padres, Hae-Sung Kim, who was posted by South Korea, and they're going to put him at second. So they figured that he's superfluous, but here's the thing. Cincinnati is also deep in their infield as well. They got Ellie De La Cruz at short already.
Yeah, look out for the Reds. I think they're coming.
Well, yeah, they underachieved for sure.
Yeah, I like the Reds.
Yeah.
They need to figure some things out in their bullpen and their.
They had
staff.
a 6-week stretch there where they were hot, and then they just and let's face it, the NL Central is anybody's game.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's one of the weakest divisions of baseball. My thing is go out and win it. De La Cruz may be he's definitely my 12-year-old's favorite player in the league.
Yeah,
right. But he could be.
He's exciting.
Yeah, he could be my favorite player in the league.
Yeah, he's exciting.
Now
he
that
creates a lot of
plays for the Mets.
Yeah, but the Reds have a lot of prospects, infield prospects, as well as, like we said, Ellie De La Cruz. So we'll see. But also, Gavin Lux played 45 games in the outfield last year, so he's versatile. He's young. He could be a stud for them. But it was still a head scratcher for the Dodgers. But this is what the Dodgers do.
They're playing chess.
Deep.
Everybody else playing checkers,
That's
in my
right.
opinion.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
So with that, I think Bregman's going to be fine. He's going to hit him a spot.
Right.
Very good third baseman. Pete Alonso, different take.
He's
on
stuck.
Pete.
I think he's stuck.
I think he's in a bad spot. Very unproductive. Very unproductive hitter.
He had a stretch in the second half, certainly in August and September, where he was lights out, but the rest of it he very much struggled. I think he had only 233.
That's the issue. And my thing is, we'll go back to this. We talk about this all the time. If you are interested in winning, and you're interested in being a perennial playoff team and making long playoff runs, the pitching gets better in the playoffs.
Right.
And hitters who struggle, they will struggle in the playoffs.
To be fair, he hit some iconic home runs in October.
He did.
Okay?
He did. He
was down to his last at-bat as a Met, and he went yakka.
Yeah, and he came through. I agree.
Right.
I agree. I would just tell you, for me, this is my personal opinion, guy strikes out too much for me.
He does.
He strikes out too much for me.
Right.
And that's that is plaguing Major League Baseball.
Well, I think they like it. Unfortunately for the two of us, I don't like it either.
Unfortunately, it is.
Chicks dig the long ball.
Unfortunately,
it's all about
but they
home
like
runs.
something else because I got there's $760 million, $765 million that say we also care about the fact that you don't have a hole in your swing.
That's true.
And
you have an eye for a 27-year-old. You have an eye like Ted Williams. Or
correct.
Something. Right.
Correct.
Exactly.
And so we've talked about this. Guys like Juan Soto, who you cannot get out in the playoffs, are a big deal. That is
correct.
It can bolster a flawed lineup, and it did.
Oh, Marco Scudero had a 96% contact rate for the Giants in 2012. You don't think he was a pain in the butt for the opposing pitchers?
Absolutely.
So I think Alonso's stuck also because his lack of versatility. I think I was surprised that he rejected the Mets offer. I think it was 6 years. And I think Steve
Cohen
blame
his agent for that.
Well, yeah. You know what I feel about his agent.
Yeah.
But I think Steve Cohen, even though he's got a $1 billion art collection,
he's got money.
He's something to be said for that.
Yep.
He's going to look at Scott and Pete and say, you know what? I'm going to give you an ultimatum. Much like what the Braves did with Freddie Freeman.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to say, look, you have until X date, and we're moving on. And I think that's going to be sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I think my biggest concern is, and this is a question that I have, is do you see a guy? So I think you're right. Pete Alonso not versatile at all. The question that I have for you is, do you think you could see a time where, you have DHs getting paid lots of money?
Yeah.
Right? And unfortunately, Juan Carlos Stanton is nothing but a DH.
No.
I mean, he plays
not.
the outfield, but at the end of the day, the guy can't run.
He can't run.
Right? And when he's protected well in the lineup, he's a very good hitter.
And he's streaky, though.
Yeah, he's streaky. But so is this guy.
Very much so.
Right? So the question is there a space where, hey, a really a non-defender DH type guy can get paid, good money? That's the question. That's going to be Pete Alonso's lifeline, in my opinion.
Yeah. It remains to be seen. I hope he remains with the Mets. I mean, they're my second favorite team. R.I.P. to my lovely cousin, Mercedes. She may be a Mets fan, But he's homegrown. They love him there. He's provocative. He's outspoken. They love that in New York. He's brash. And he also stepped up big. I hope.
Played well in the playoffs.
He stepped up in the playoffs. Yep. And you know what? I just want to see players play for one team. Call me old school, call me old-fashioned, whatever. But anyway, that's pretty much it. We're going to see what happens. I mean, in the next week or so, arbitration figures are going to be traded, and then we'll see how many people avoid arbitration. We know that Corbin Burns' arbitration case basically soured him on the entire experience, and he said, I'm never signing with Milwaukee again. And it can be a very nasty process for some of these guys. We'll see what happens.
Hard on Jeter.
It was hard on Jeter. He didn't like it at all.
Yeah, it's hard on some of these guys that are a little bit more old school.
Yeah.
And
ego driven.
Yeah, and
sure. They all are, right?
Yeah, they're all ego driven. I don't think you can play at this level without, having an ego.
So, tomorrow.
Yeah, but I am excited. I'm excited about getting to February. Let's get pitchers and catchers in there. And
can't wait.
Yeah, let's get past free agency and let's move on down the road and play some baseball.
Can't wait. Okay, that being said, we'll switch gears a little bit. Turning to the college football playoff. For me, I think it's been a home run. I think it's been wonderful. More games are meaningful. You're seeing a lot less guys opt out. I think there's only one or two. I think the Michigan running back opted out. That's the only one that comes to mind. But it's so much better when you have. It just didn't make sense for me when you had 140 plus teams, Division I teams, and only 4 of them play for the national title. Does it stretch it out a little bit too much? Maybe. But the fact that there are 12 teams that are vying for this, and we've seen some blowouts for sure. But the ability for those teams to host a home playoff game is just wonderful, and seeing the electricity in the crowd. Heck, South Bend is not a place that's known for a great college atmosphere, aside from Touchdown Jesus and the history behind it. But I mean that game against Indiana, place was electric. It was loud as heck. Yep. It was just great, and but there are some things that maybe we could touch on to make it a little bit better. But what things stood out for you?
So for me, college football, the new format. So jury's still out for me. Okay, and so as a good friend of mine always states, we talk. He came up. Travis Harper came up with this slogan: portal parity. So the question is there going to be more parity in college football? Right now, I would tell you that there may be a little bit more parity, but I really want to understand. We put 12 teams in the playoff this year. Did anybody outside the top 8 have a chance of winning the championship? That's that's a legitimate question I have. Now, I don't know if that's going to change. Right, I think portal parity is a real thing, where maybe the number 18 team can get hot, right, and make a run. But this year, I want to be clear. I don't think teams outside the top 8 had a chance to play for the championship, and so right now I'm leaning towards we expanded to 12. They're talking about maybe going to 16 at some point, right? But I think the sweet spot is 8. And that's because I don't know. College football has not proven to me that a dark horse can win it all. They have not. They have not proven that to me. And so until that takes place, I am a believer in having the teams that have a legitimate chance to win it all. Because and really the sad part for me, Bebo, is I don't like that college football is starting to look like the NFL. I do not like it. It bothers me.
In what way?
In the sense that, hey, are we going to get to a point where the number 16 team can win it all? Right? Because of this transfer portal? Because of what we call free agency?
Well, I think part of the issue is because we have so many huge conferences. The Big 12 has expanded. The SEC expanded. The Big 10 has expanded dramatically, where they have like 16 teams in each conference,
yep.
right? And so the number 12 team might dominate in the Pac-12. Pac-12 is decimated, right?
Yep.
The number 8 team this year was Ohio State. I don't see anyone beating them.
Yeah, we'll talk about that here,
but I mean,
for sure.
But the reason why Ohio State was ranked at number 8 because they couldn't beat Michigan.
Yeah,
they went 0-2 against them.
And this is what I will say about college football, and this has always been the case. And I can't say this about the NFL, so that's my point. Right?
Yeah.
My point is the team Ohio State that struggled, that couldn't beat Michigan, that struggled against Nebraska, okay, that really did not look like world beaters the entire season, okay. Is that the same team that's in the playoff? Right? In the NFL, you can say, hey, a wild card team that makes the playoffs 8-8, Seahawks, they can go and win it all. Right? Well, my thing is we're about to find that out here. Right? Ohio State does not look like world beaters all year. Loses to Michigan 13-10, looks inept on offense.
Right.
Okay, with the best player in college football. Okay. And my thing is if they go out and win it all, it tells me that you just have to get hot at the right time. And it's becoming more and more like the NFL, which is concerning to me. Yeah. I love the old school college football, 1970s, 1980s, where you have to go 11-1 to play for the national title, not 13-3.
Yeah, but I mean, an early season loss can decimate your season, and let's put it this way. I mean, it is for me to have a 2-loss season in the SEC shouldn't be a death knell for you.
Yeah, well,
now if you lose 3 games like Alabama, okay, then fine.
Yeah,
LSU, that's fine.
I agree with that, but you have a number of teams clamoring at home, right? South Carolina, Alabama, all those, Ole Miss, right? Those teams are clamoring. You lost 3 games. You don't deserve to be in this dance, right? I don't care what your schedule looks like.
Correct. So that's why there's an argument against expanding it to 16 teams. But I think, granted, we only have a small sample size just this year.
That's right. That's right.
Is it an improvement from last year or the year before?
100%.
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
No question about it.
Yep.
Could there be improvements?
Yes.
For me, fill in the blank.
We can talk about the seeding. We can talk about all these different things. There's ways to improve.
The problem that I have with it, Eric, is the top 4 seeds that earned a bye, they're all out. The top 4 teams that earned a bye, Arizona State, Georgia, Oregon. Who was the other one?
Arizona State, Oregon, Georgia.
Boise State. Those teams, if I remember correctly, they didn't play for 30 days.
Yeah, and that's a flaw.
That's a flaw. Their fans didn't get to see them play for 30 days. Their fans didn't get to watch them host a playoff game.
Yes.
Unlike Happy Valley, unlike South Bend.
Yeah, or Austin.
But
I will go a step further. I'm going to go one layer a little bit deeper, and this is what I'm going to say. Is that in a format where you have to win 4 games in a row to win it all, okay, that does not bode well for the teams that do not play tough conference schedules. Okay, because this is what I'll say.
Yeah.
Right? If you back this up and you say, okay, let's go back to the BCS era. 1 plays 2. Okay, for all the marbles.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is BYU or Arizona State or Boise State, right? Or fill in the blank with with basically a lower tier program, non-blue blood program. Okay? Those teams can pull off an upset 1 game in a row. I believe that. They can do it.
With NIL money and the transfer portal,
they can show up and play 1 game in a row. But to run off 4 in a row, right? To run off 4 in a row and win a national title, if you're one of those teams, not going to happen. I will put it right here on the table. It will not happen.
But if it does happen, then they've earned it.
Correct. They've earned it. Right. But my point is My point is, I believe, and look, I'm biased. I love the Texas Longhorns.
Well, right now, wait a minute. Right now, we're in a situation where one of those teams is going to have to win 4 games in a row.
Yeah, but all these teams that are in the college football playoff, they're all blue bloods. These teams can win 4 games in a row. These teams have the best athletes in the country.
Fair.
Right? But I'm going to tell you, Boise State's going to line up, and just look at Boise State line up against Penn State. It's a different animal.
Yeah.
And all I'm saying is you might be able to beat Penn State one time. But next week, you got to go on the road, and you got to play Notre Dame.
Right.
Right? And then after that, if you beat Notre Dame, you got to play Ohio State or Texas. I just don't see it happening. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Now it just comes down to the size and the athletes are not the same. They're not the same caliber.
Right.
And I believe those teams can win 1 game in a row, but when you put them in a position where they have to win 4, holy smokes, it's going to be tough.
But wouldn't that be cool?
It would be cool.
But you don't see it happen. But hey, the cream rises to the top. That's the thing.
The cream rises to the top. Absolutely.
So I mean, I love it. I love these games that are matching up. I mean, Notre Dame, Penn State. It's Notre Dame's only a 1.5 favorite.
Yep, gonna be a great game.
Yeah, Jeremiah Love. Apparently, he's going to be healthy enough to play.
How are you feeling about that game? Who do you like?
Well, I'm an Irish fan.
Mm-hmm.
I got 3 favorite teams: the Irish, Arizona State, because my kid went there, and anybody that plays the University of Spoiled Children. Okay. So Notre Dame's defense has been the best I've seen in 20 years. Isaiah Watts is probably the smartest defender out there in college football. He's a ball hawk. Their linebackers are studs. The one thing that Lou Holtz didn't have, especially towards the end of his college career, is that he didn't have any speed in the skill positions defensively. Now they do.
Yep. The biggest question mark for me, and look, I'll make my pick right here. I like Notre Dame to cover the 1.5.
Okay.
I like Notre Dame a lot. And so for me, I love this top 4. I love these 4 teams. I love blue bloods. I love college football. College football is better when UT, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State, when they are good, it is good for college football. Okay.
Even Miami. I'll even throw Miami.
Yeah, Miami, there's a number of them.
Right.
Okay. And my thing is, I like Notre Dame to beat Penn State. I think, like I said, the same Penn State team that showed up all years, the same Penn State team that's going to have to play Notre Dame. My only caveat to that is this. I worry about Notre Dame's quarterback.
Oh, Riley Leonard?
Yeah. He has got to play well enough for them to win. And what I get concerned about is he's done it all year.
Yep, okay? He has. He sold me.
Yep.
I thought he was going to be another Sam Hartman because he's an ACC transfer.
Yes.
Sam Hartman came from Wake Forest.
Yes.
This guy came from Duke. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, not another one. But you know what? He runs and he throws.
Yep. And he's playing well enough to not lose you games.
Correct. Okay,
and that's a big deal. And I'm going to go back to my earlier point. Another concern that I have is this has been the worst quarterback play I've seen in college football in my life.
From Riley Leonard or
from everyone.
Yeah.
Or just across the board. You've had blue blood quarterbacks. It doesn't matter whether it's Quinn Ewers, the kid at Georgia. The best quarterback in the country this year was really the kid at Miami, and they lost a couple of games.
Yeah.
And Dylan Gabriel at Oregon, he probably played the most probably the
uninspiring. I mean, they almost lost to Boise State. They almost lost to Ohio State.
Yeah, and so this has been – and what I'm going to say is this college football looking more like the NFL, where you can win it all with mediocre quarterback play? That has rarely been the case in the history of college football.
That's true.
And so I will say, if he goes out and does not lose Notre Dame the game, Notre Dame wins, beats Penn State.
The key for me, Notre Dame's defense is forced a turnover in every single game except for one. Can you guess which one that was?
Indiana? I don't know.
No, the game they lost, Northern Illinois.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, week 2 at home.
That's a good stat. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Yeah,
if their defense forces turnovers, if they force Drew Aller into throwing some picks, or if they strip sack him, if that defensive line gets to him where he hurries him, where they hurry him, then Notre Dame's got a really good chance.
Are you comfortable saying Notre Dame wins the turnover battle, they win the game?
Yes.
Okay.
No question about it.
Yeah.
No question about it. I love this game. Unfortunately, I will be at a charity concert. We can talk about that later. Shout out to the Rad Project. Ronald Duncan, friend of yours.
Yep.
He's got a charity concert tomorrow night. We're going to be at the Bluebird Cafe, but I will have that game taped in my hotel room somehow.
Absolutely.
So, moving on to the next one, the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, Ohio State against Texas. Your Longhorns.
Yes.
Who, let's face it, I mean, If they play like they did against Arizona State, they will get blown.
They will
out
get
of
Billy
the building.
clubbed. They will get Billy clubbed. I will tell you that right now. Here,
Talk about a quarterback I'm not really thrilled about.
yeah. Don't get me started. But I will tell you. I go back and forth. I have a number of. I'm a student right now at the University of Texas. I am a huge lifelong UT fan. I will tell you right now, Texas will not survive. Texas will not survive playing like they did against Arizona State.
No.
They will get Billy clubbed.
And it's not just the turnovers, Eric. It was the pre-snap penalties.
No. It starts.
Ridiculous.
It starts with one offensive unit, and it's their offensive line.
Absolutely.
If their offensive line does not show up and play better, this is my hot take here. Okay, I think total overreactions between the two games last week. Okay, overreaction by the media, overreaction by everybody. Ohio State Billy whipped. Oregon ran all over them.
Oregon's secondary is on roll
Oregon's
skates.
awful. Defense, okay. And I think Ohio State is playing the best football in the country. Okay, that being said, I also watched the UT Arizona State game, okay, and at the end of the day, UT, my opinion, didn't play well enough to win that game.
No.
Okay, but they won. Okay, so now you have UT.
They won because of 4th and 13 and because of non-targeting call.
Yeah, a lot of things. But we'll get back to this. They also lost because of the arrogance of Arizona head coach.
Yeah.
Arizona State head coach.
Your buddy Dillingham, he's not one of your friends.
Yeah,
Right?
and so what I'm going to say is this: if UT runs the ball for more than 150 yards, okay, if they run the ball for more than 150 yards and give up less than 5 sacks, they will win this football game. They will win this football game.
150 yards rushing as a team.
150 yards rushing as a team.
Not just Wiesner.
Nope. As a team, and they give up less than 5 sacks, they will win this football game. And I put my money where my mouth is. I have UT money line.
Okay.
I got money on UT to win this game, and I will tell you that's because I believe there's overreactions to both games last week.
So right now, money line is UT plus 190.
I got plus 200.
Okay, you got plus 200. We got the over/under at 53.5, and the Buckeyes are a 5.5-point favorite in the Cotton Bowl, which is essentially a home game for
and
Texas
that all has to do with Ohio State's playing the best football in the country.
And we know those Longhorn fans, they travel well.
Yeah, I will not take anything away from Ohio State. They have shown up, and they have beat the brakes off Tennessee.
Will Howard had the game of his life.
Yeah, and they beat the brakes off Oregon. Okay, and all I'm saying is if Texas can win the line of scrimmage in this game, they will win the game. I do not think Texas alone can guard the receivers at Ohio State. I'm not going to sit here and tell you the secondary will shut them down. What I'm going to tell you is it's going to be a twofold effort. If the University of Texas defensive line can get after the quarterback at Ohio State and make his life difficult, he will struggle to find those wide open receivers.
So 5 sacks or less by the offensive line. That means they have to play ball control, especially if they're going to.
Yeah, they're going to have to. They're going to have to.
They're going to have to shorten that game.
This is a little known stat. I don't think anybody talks about in the Arizona State game, UT game. UT lost that time possession by almost 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and my thing is that will kill. I don't care if you have the 85 Bears defense out there. That defense will get exposed being on the field that long. Yeah. They played 96 snaps from scrimmage.
That's a lot.
I'm worried about them recovering for this game.
That's a lot.
How you like that?
Yeah. Well, luckily, this game's on Friday.
Yeah.
The Notre Dame game,
is
even though they they played a day 2 days later, right? Because of the tragedy.
Because of the tragedy, yep.
Right. So,
yep.
Shout out to all those people in New Orleans. I know that they're still recovering from such a terrible tragedy.
Awful.
Yeah. And Vegas too. So, I love
this
match.
In that game.
I'm sorry. I mean, I've seen Texas just shoot themselves in the foot all frickin' season long, time again, and they just happen to just. I mean, I think they played their most complete game against OU,
Michigan.
Michigan on the road. That's right. That's true. But we didn't know what Michigan was like. I mean, look, they were coming off a national championship, right? They had Jim Harbaugh left, but they still had their defensive coordinator take over.
Yep.
But I mean, they just got boat raced,
yep.
and yes, that raised a lot of eyebrows. But ever since then, aside from the OU game, they've been underperforming.
That's really. Right. So the question is, can they play a complete game?
This is who they are. Texas. This is who they are. And Ohio State just absolutely boat raced for all intents and purposes, the number 1 team in the nation.
Beat the brakes off them. Absolutely.
If Ohio State starts off fast like they did, no turning back. Because I don't think Texas can stretch out the field long enough to score quickly. I mean, yeah, they did against Arizona State. That's because Arizona State's defense was just like hitting the mouth. Yep. But Texas only scored 2 touchdowns in the first 5 minutes of the game, and then they didn't score another touchdown, an offensive touchdown until the last 5 minutes of the game. Between that, they were garbage.
Pedestrian.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
all about the O-line.
I think Ohio State. I think they win.
Cover.
-5. I think they win by 4, so I don't think they cover.
Okay. I like that. No shame in that game.
No.
Ohio State's playing they're the hottest team in the country right now.
Right. So that's going to do it for us. The Picked
Awesome.
Off podcast. It's our maiden voyage. I think it was fun. I know it was fun. I hope you out there in podcast land enjoyed it. We know that you have many options to listen, especially with time being precious, and we do appreciate your time with us. So. For my good friend Eric Schuler, this is Bitter Mike. This has been the Picked Off podcast with Bitter Mike and Eric. And stay to us next week. We will. We're gonna talk about the semifinal games. We're also going to talk about week 1 of the postseason in the NFL, and we're going to talk about also some baseball signings if there are any significant signings. And we'll just keep rocking and rolling doing this. Had a fun time and. So, Eric, any final thoughts?
Nope. Thanks for having me. Let's do it again.
Of course. What are you doing this weekend?
This weekend, so my son has a debate tournament. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm judging a debate tournament, so I get to go put my.
Are you going to recuse yourself when he's up there?
So he is not allowed to. So it's a home debate tournament.
Okay.
Churchill, his high school hosts the tournament, and
Dang,
Churchill's
Jimmy's in high school?
freshman. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So students at Churchill are not allowed to compete in this tournament.
Oh really?
Via
they're hosting.
administration.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's not like a real rule. It's a rule that Churchill's made that said, hey, they only work the tournament.
Okay,
so,
got it.
Yep. So it should be fun. It's going to be my first time. I'm excited about it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Myself, V-Rock, and I are heading on a plane to Nashville for the RAD Project concert. Our friend Ron Duncan is a 9-year survivor of a peritoneal carcinomatosis. It's a very rare form of cancer. He was diagnosed, like I said, 9 years ago. Stage 4, was given 90 days to live, and got a second opinion at the good folks at Vanderbilt. They basically opened him up, 16-hour surgery, I believe, and he's coming out strong. One of our dear friends, and so he hosts a small, unplugged concert featuring this year Lee Bryce.
That's a big name.
Yeah, he's a big name. And so we went out there. Last year he went out there for the first time, and we loved it. And so it's to raise money for a good cause for Vanderbilt Hospital for Cancer Research.
When do y'all leave, Mike?
Tomorrow morning. We're wheels up tomorrow morning.
Any concerns about weather?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we got weather advisories, and we're going to try and beat the storm that's coming in Nashville Friday morning. So we're in tomorrow, out Friday, and hopefully we'll make it. But if not, Nashville's not the worst place to get stuck in.
That's right. All that being said, everybody stay safe out there with this weather.
Absolutely. This has been the Picked Off Podcast with Eric and Bitter Mike. Thanks, everyone, for listening. God bless.
Attaboy, we could use a few